Senai Guedalia, thank you so much for joining us today. In unfortunate circumstances, but you're an incredible inspiration to so many, a student of social work and the wife of Yosef Guedalia, a true hero for the Jewish people.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I want to go to a difficult moment, to a difficult time. October 7th shook the foundations of every Jew around the world and much of humanity. But it shook a little bit closer to home for you.
Yeah.
What happened on October 7th? What happened with Guedalia and with those around him?
So on Simchat Torah, we were home. We were in Jerusalem. And Yosef got a phone call around 8 in the morning from his mefaked saying that there was a situation down south and to be ready. And it wasn't so clear what it was. And after a lot of sirens here in Jerusalem, Yosef picked up his phone and called his friend from the team and said, "Hey, where are you? What's going on?" His friend said, "I'm driving to base." So Yosef said, "Okay, I'll drive to base too." So...
He wasn't called up?
No.
He just went?
Yeah, not initially. So we ran back to the apartment. I ran with Yosef because I was like, I'm not letting him do this on his own. I didn't fully understand what was going on, but I just didn't want him to do it on his own. We, got his stuff together really quickly. And at the car, he gave me a hug and a kiss, and he said, "I'll see you soon, I love you." And then he got in the car, and he drove to his base. That was the last time I saw him. His base is pretty close by. It's like a 30-minute drive usually, but he got there in 15 minutes because he was driving very, very fast. Once he got there, within 10 minutes, he was dressed in his gear, and he kind of just joined whoever was driving first. And they drove to Kfar Aza. It was a group of 4 of them. And they were in and out of the kibbutz 3 times. Each time they were evacuating civilians that had been injured or soldiers that had been injured, bringing them to the first aid center and then going back in. And obviously also neutralizing terrorists the whole time they were there. I've been there and I've seen where Yosef protected people and, neutralized terrorists, and it's crazy to see. One of the people that he saved that day was a man in the Shabak who had shown up to Kfar Aza without anything just to save people. And eventually he was hit in the chest in 2 places here. And a policeman called Yosef and his team over, said, "I have a really badly injured man here. I need you to take him out." So we have it on video because the policeman had a camera on his helmet, which is amazing. And you see Yosef and Orush, who was also killed that day, carrying the man into their vehicle. And then you also see Yosef in the vehicle saying to the man, "Stay with me, stay with me." And they brought him to the first aid center where he was transported to the hospital. And that man is alive now, which is unbelievable. He had 2 bullets here in his chest.
Have you met him?
Yeah, a few times, and it's incredible. It's incredible. He told us that he's thankful every day when he drinks water. He's thankful to Yosef and to Arush. So it's amazing. He's walking and he's talking. For me, Yosef and I don't have children, unfortunately, but for me, it's almost as if we have a child because he kept that man alive. And it's really an incredible thing. And then they went back into the kibbutz, and this time they went around to the youth neighborhood, which is where Emily Damari was kidnapped and Yotam Chaim was kidnapped from. Gal and Ziv Berman, who are still there, still hostages, were kidnapped from. And they went in between the rows of houses a few times. It was full of terrorists there. And one of the times that they were trying to get to an RPG that they saw on the ground, and they didn't want to be ambushed by it, but they were hit from a different angle by an RPG, so they evacuated the car. And the 3 other guys ran to the right, and Yosef ran straight. And for a year, we didn't know exactly what happened after that. We just knew that at some point he was shot then. But eventually, we found out from a soldier. We found out on October 7th this year, a soldier that was just a few meters away, that there was a group of about 10 terrorists on the fence, and Yosef seemingly saw them and took out his small gun while he was running. The big gun was burned in the vehicle, so he only had his small gun. He took it out and went towards them to neutralize them.
He went by himself with 10 people.
Mm-hmm. And in that moment, they he shot them and killed a lot of them, and they killed him. But because of what he did, the other terrorists that were waiting around there got scared, and they went back down, and therefore he saved all the soldiers that were in that row of houses. So one who saves one life saves the whole world, and Yosef saved so many worlds in that day and in his whole service. So it's incredibly meaningful. I'm so proud of him. Like, I can't even imagine the thoughts going through his head in that moment. I've tried to 100 times, and I just know that he knew that he was doing the right thing.
Well, I can't speak for him, but I know he'd be proud of you as well, sharing this story and inspiring worlds as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
What happened when you found out Yosef's fate?
So Yosef was killed on Shabbat on the first day, on October 7th. But I didn't find out about that until Monday. So I had essentially 2 days between that I hadn't heard from him, but probably something within me was trying to defend myself. It was like, oh, that's fine, that's normal, because in a way it was normal. Yosef was in Duvdevan, so he would go, a few days at a time, sometimes without answering. But after 2 days, it was starting to be a little bit strange. And then on Monday evening, we found out. Officers came to my in-laws' house. I was staying at them in Bet Shemesh. And I just remember falling on the floor and not wanting to believe them. And I just said over and over again, what is my life? What is my life? I didn't know, still don't know really what my life is without Yosef.
So they knock on the door, they come in, they tell it to you, and you just collapse.
So I was actually on a walk with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, which in a way I think really saved me, because everybody fears that knock on the door, and I didn't have one. I didn't have exactly a knock on the door. We were going on a walk. I remember coming around the block, and I was talking about how I can't wait for my parents to come to Israel. I miss them. And then all of a sudden we saw my father-in-law standing outside the house, and my mother-in-law said to my father-in-law, it was their anniversary. She said, happy anniversary. And he already knew, but he had the grace and the kindness to say to her happy anniversary before saying anything else. And then he kind of turned us around, and we saw the officers, and we saw my brother-in-law Asher in his uniform. And my immediate thought was, okay, Yosef is injured, so let's go to the hospital. Like, I'm ready, let's go. And then we see the officers, and they're coming towards us, and it's kind of in my memory in slow motion. And they kept trying to get us inside, because they can't tell us in the middle of the street. And I kept saying to my brother-in-law, Asher, what hospital? Like, when can we go? And then he wasn't answering me, so I think something in me understood, and I tried to run away. They brought me upstairs.
You tried to leave in the street?
Yeah.
Because you wanted to, why were you running away at that time?
I think it's like a primal instinct of not wanting to hear something so horrible. We got upstairs, and they told all of us. And then I just remember saying over and over again, what is my life? What is my life? A complete shock.
And where did it go from there? There was a funeral, there was a shiva.
Yeah.
How did it, what was the process like, and what were you going through at that time?
So we had 2 days between when we found out and the actual funeral, because it was such a crazy time in the country, and so horribly, so many people had died in those few days. So it was just impossible to get a funeral set up. The army was amazing and really, really helpful towards us, but it took a while. So in those 2 days, we were in Aninut, which is when you know that someone has died, but you haven't buried them yet. So it was a very, very, very strange time. Those 2 days, I just remember complete shock and feeling shattered completely. My parents arrived, thank God, and my brothers arrived from America. I don't remember so much of it. My friends were amazing, took care of me in every way possible. And me and Yosef's family just really held each other up throughout the entire Shiva also, and throughout this entire experience. I've just had an amazing support system. But yeah, the funeral I don't remember so much of either. Shiva also, it's all, I thank God for the brain's ability to have such a strong defense mechanism, because I think it's too much to think about.
And then what about the next 30, like the first 30 days of Shloshim, and then the Yud Aleph, the 11 months of saying Kaddish till the first Yortzeit?
Right.
Is that just as much of a blur, or did things start to
No.
become more clear then?
It became more clear then. In the first 30 days, we started to really see how much Am Yisrael wants to le'ansiach, to memorialize these people. People were turning to us from left, right, and center saying, I want to do a project for SF, I want to do a project for SF. This was just in the first 30 days. We had a beautiful event at Chorev Girls' School, where my sister-in-law is studying.
My daughters go there as well.
Oh, really? It's a great place. So that was really beautiful. And from then on, the past, now it's been about 15 months, just been full of opportunities to spread Yosef's light. Yeah.
I mean, some people want their privacy and they want to like go away. I spoke to someone else today who didn't let anyone into her house for months at a time. And you have leaned to the opportunity to really share Yosef's legacy, to bring hope and to inspire so many. Why is that? What is it like, what do you feel is your role now? Were you different, on October 6th to on October 8th? What's changed?
Definitely different. I think it's a balance, because I have seen that if I let in too much, or if I stretch myself too thin, it doesn't do good for anybody. So it's been a learning process over the past few months of what do I say yes to and what do I, hold on to myself for. But I have seen overall, I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's due to Yosef more than anything, that sharing about him really inspires people and is a chance to keep him alive. And for me, that's a huge privilege to be able to do that. So obviously I can't say yes to everything, and I can't do everything as much as I would want to ideally. But as much as I can, I think it's like the greatest gift to be able to share his light with the world. And that really inspires me.
Because you've embraced that, you're a noticeable personality. You're walking in the street as different before. Is it annoying when someone looks at you 3 times, or when they say something to you, or is it nice, or is it like, how do you experience that?
It depends. It depends on what they say, what they do, how they do it. I really feel people's energy, I think. So it really just depends on what I'm feeling. Most of the time it's not annoying. It just is funny. Like, it gives you some sense of imposter syndrome, I think. But people say things that really stick with me, like in a good...
It could be a random person you never met says something and that really helps, or that's nice, or that's meaningful.
Yeah, like people have told me that they keep Shabbat because of Yosef, or that they wear tzitzit because of Yosef, that, they made Aliyah because of Yosef, and it really inspires me. It's a really special thing.
Like I knew Yosef a tzaddik.
Yeah.
Like the biblical figure. It's
Mamash.
inspiring so many.
Yeah.
What is it that you loved about him? How did you fall in love with him? How did you guys meet each other? And how did that lead to this beautiful marriage?
We met when we were 19. We were working in Camp Moshava together. And I had a crush on him right away. And he claims that he also had a crush on me, but debatable. And from then on, we were friends for a while. And finally, after about 2.5 years, he asked me out. And we dated.
2.5 years?
It took time. He was in Duvdevan, so while he was in training, he didn't want me to be miserable while he wasn't on his phone for a long time. And so it took some time. But thankfully, we started going out when we were 21. And we dated pretty quickly. We dated for 4 months, and then we got engaged. We really just had fun together. Time was very, very holy for us. We literally felt that it was holy because he was in the army the entire time that we were dating, the whole time we were married. So any opportunity that we had, we would see each other, even if we were both exhausted. I was in school, he was in the army, and it didn't really matter what we were doing. We were just always having fun. We could be sitting in the car, we could be going on a hike, we could be, just walking around Jerusalem. Yosef had this beautiful calmness and stillness to him. Despite being a warrior in the army, he was calm and gentle and full of light. everywhere, and especially at home with me. And so everything that we did together was simple and special. But yeah, like, I remember my mom called me when we were about to get engaged, and she was like, how do you know that you love him? How do you know that you're in love? Like, tell me. And I said, it's just so simple. I just feel so calm.
It's like natural.
Yeah, very natural, like mamash soulmates.
I mean, Duvdevan is one of the most elite units. He was in Keva, he was in the permanent forces.
Yeah.
And how much longer did he expect to stay there?
He was supposed to be there until March, so a year ago he was meant to get out.
And then what was his plans after that?
He was considering to work in security still, not necessarily in the army, but maybe in like the Mossad or something like that. He was very curious about doing. And then he eventually wanted to study high tech, but if you asked him, he would say, first I'm going to Thailand with my wife, and then I'll do some sort of job so that I could be home with my wife more, and then eventually I'll go to the university and whatever. But eventually he wanted to do high tech. But it was very important for him. He would always say, I want to go to work at 10 a.m. and leave work at 3 p.m. so I could be home with my family. That was very important to him.
Have you been to Thailand?
No.
Would you go there?
Not sure.
And what's your, what's the memory that everyone else would have of him? What type of person was he for the people in his army tzevet, in his team, his family, his friends, and just the people that sort of just met him in the street?
So what's amazing is that I met so many different people, I mean, in the last year and a half, but also just during the Shiva, I met so many people that knew him and loved him. And they were all telling me different stories, but they were also consistent with Yosef. You know, some things were new to me, but nothing was surprising because it was also consistent. And I think that they would all just say that he was joy, like full of light, but also such a stable person, like someone that you could turn to for anything and you knew he would do it. His friends would call him for advice about dating, advice about cooking, advice about anything, and he just always had solid advice, someone that you just knew you were safe around. And like I said, and I didn't know him as a warrior because he was the most gentle, loving, kind person. But his friends in the army also really saw him as a warrior, someone that they could really turn to in life and in death, which is what happened. But at the same time, they knew how loving he was because he loved them so much, and he showed how much he loved me and his family to them. One of his friends told me during the Shiva that on a Thursday morning, they came back from a mission, and on Thursday, you can go home for the weekend. And his friend found Yosef in the office, like doing things that he could have been doing on Sunday morning. And his friend was like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you just going home straight away? And he said, I have to calm down. I've been in a battlefield mindset and my wife deserves better. So I'm going to calm down, get into the right mindset, and then I'll go home where I could be fully present with her. So he really just managed to hold everything all together in the most incredible way, which is incredibly special.
How has this been for your faith as a Jew, your relationship with God? Has it been harder, helpful? What has this done?
I think all the walls have come down. I think that I've just sort of seen like me and God, like we are, we're close. And that means that sometimes you get angry at someone that you're close with because you care about the relationship. I remember at the beginning, I would go upstairs. I was living in my in-laws' house for a long time after Yosef died. I would go up to our room, I would turn on the shower, and I would just scream and scream, like, why, how have you done this to me? Like, how, why? And I realized, okay, like I'm in this space right now where I'm feeling very angry with God, but I remember my teacher, my rabbi in Harova of Millstone told me that you only really get angry at God if you really love him. So I felt like, okay, it's okay that I'm in this space right now because it means that I still have a strong connection with him. And over the last year and a half, with the help of a lot of amazing teachers and my mother-in-law especially, we've spoken a lot about how we can't always answer why. We can't, but we know that we're in good hands with God and that everything is from him. So whether it's the painful or the beautiful, I know that it's all a gift from God, and I'm so grateful for that because my life is full of beautiful things. And I don't think that I would be so in pain from Yosef's loss if I didn't love him so much, if he wasn't so beautiful, and like, I'm grateful for all of that.
I'm just thinking to myself, Senai, like, if I could show you this video 5 years ago and you're in your early 20s and you're speaking about such deep, profound principles and love and a relationship with God and the good and the bad, would you believe this is you saying these things?
I don't know. I remember like in Harova and in high school, like hearing people speak that had been through, you know, terror or loss and stuff like that, and being so like wowed by them. I think I would be pretty much in shock. Like, how is she saying that?
So what message do you have to those people? Imagine like, you know, yourself 10 years ago, or a you know, student in the States, in Argentina, in Paris, in Australia, in Israel. You know, did this give you any different sense of the importance of different things in life? Is there any message you'd have for the next generation?
When you ask me that, I'm like, Miani, like
Meaning, who are you?
Yeah, but I think, like I said, like I really believe that I know that it's all from God, everything, it's all a gift, and it can be really, really painful, and that pain might not ever go away, but to recognize that it's a gift from God and it wouldn't be painful if it hadn't been so special, and if it was still so special. Like, I remember thinking about this a while back, about like hearts and broken hearts, and like what breaks our hearts is what makes us really strong. And when you have a broken heart, the space in between isn't equal to 0. It has to be equal to something mathematically. So that's where you learned something and where you gained something, and maybe where your perspective changed and you saw like, wow, my life is really meaningful and what I choose to do with it is important. And that doesn't mean that you can't have bad days or days where you do nothing, because I have plenty of those. But to know that that's also a gift, and it's also an opportunity, and to just, I really try to see my life like that. I really try.
There's a teaching that the Torah is black fire on white fire, and that there's just as much communicated between the letters in the white space as the letters themselves. I don't think we realize that, but I think you just put that message into real life, that it's the moments in between the milestones that really count. So I really appreciate you sharing that. What message would Yosef want Am Yisrael to be hearing today, the Jewish people, humanity? You know, he seemed like a man on a mission that could, on the one hand, be the most loving, beautiful husband, great friend, and at the same time a warrior that's really fighting for a just cause. What would he want us to know?
When you ask me that, 2 things come to mind, 2 things that he wrote about. The first is he wrote about Yom HaZikaron, that what's the point of Yom HaZikaron? It's
Yom HaZikaron is the day of remembrance.
Yeah, the day of remembrance. What's the point of it? It's not to cry over the losses and how sad, and you know, obviously that's also something that comes along with it, but the real point of it is to see that those people chose to do what they did, and we are just like them. We can be just like them. We are so strong. We have a lot of strength that we just need to tap into.
Sounds like Yosef was talking about himself.
Yeah. I remember finding that in his journal afterwards and being like, whoa, like, how did you know exactly what to write to keep me strong about that? And the second thing is that it's a huge privilege to live here and to be part of the Jewish nation. Yosef was amazed by anybody who made Aliyah. At any age, he was amazed by them. His parents made Aliyah when they were younger. I made Aliyah, and he just was awed, like thought it was the most amazing thing, and really saw it as a huge privilege to live here and to protect the nation. He thought it was, he saw it as the biggest gift in his life. So to see that our existence here as the greatest gift.
Wow. Is there any memory that you want to share, anecdote or final message?
There's so many. I'm thinking.
Take your time.
On our wedding day, when Yosef came to the Kisei Kala, I don't know what most grooms say to their brides, but Yosef said to me, "All I do is win," which is his favorite song, but also he really felt that everything he did was a win. He was telling me also that marrying me was a win for him, but really everything he did was a win. That's really how he saw his life. So it made me laugh at the time, and then afterwards when he explained it to me, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So yeah, that's Yosef, like to be, such a tzaddik who learned every single day. He was learning Torah every day when he was in the army. He had a chavruta every Friday. Who also plays basketball and, flies drones in his free time, also in the army, but also in his free time he loved flying drones. And also, loves the song All I Do Is Win, like it, and for a reason he loved that song. Because that's Yosef, like he was just a very special, all-encompassing, but very tsanua person. So when you saw him, you saw this like bright light, you saw this beautiful smile, eyes that never stopped smiling, and you could just tell that he was holding so much light, and it just encompassed so many different things.
It's amazing because the biblical Yosef, one of the greatest, most inspiring things was that Rashi talks about, quoting the Midrash, that he played with, these children that were around him. Like it talks about with his brothers, he was like a shepherd. It talks about with his father learning Torah, he was a viceroy of Egypt. Such different worlds, and each one sort of was connected in their way. And it sounds like exactly what Yosef, his biblical namesake, was.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Able to bring these worlds together. And you too, Senai, this is the place where the Torah came from and came to. And it's this quiet, still voice, this kol dmama daka, which is what your voice sounds like to us. It's this moment of revelation in this place of humility. And we just pray that you're able to continue to be that quiet, still voice that inspires all of us, and that hopefully Hashem continues to reveal himself to you so that relationships grows, you get stronger and stronger, and continually inspire everyone that you connect with. Yehi zichro baruch, may his memory be for a blessing.
Thank you, Amen. Thank you.